It's X or 10 Nordics. I don't know if it's supposed to be Roman numerals or not. The chapters have Roman numerals, so I'm just going to assume it's supposed to be a fancy way of saying 10. So this is Ys 10 Nordics. It's been around 16 years since I last reviewed a Ys game, and the only reason I know it's pronounced Ys is because they say it in the game. If not, I'd keep calling it Wise. I reviewed Ys Book 1 and 2 for the Wii Virtual Console. The rest of the games I just never got around to, and when I saw this was released, I thought I would give it a chance. Playing it, I think it's a fairly entertaining open-world role-playing game. The story is about Adel, who, while hitching a ride on a boat, a pirate princess boards the ship and murders the captain of the ship over not paying her tolls. So clearly this princess is the villain of the series, and we have to defeat her. I mean, how do you redeem a person who kills someone over not paying a protection toll? Well, here's the twist. She's gonna be your other party member. Monsters, which they name Grieger, are popping up all around the town, and they're unkillable. Until Adel finds a seashell that gives him the magic powers of mana. It lets him kill the monsters that are all around him. He finds out that that pirate princess named Karja has the same power. For some reason, they get linked by magical cuffs, and they can't separate. They agree to team up and stop the Geiger threat that is plaguing the world. I just don't understand why they introduced the other main character as an evil murderer. When she actually changes clothes, they kind of drop the whole thing. They do try to justify it in a side mission, but it felt half-hearted. And it was only there to say, yeah, that guy was the bad guy, so it's okay that she killed him. In the moment, it seemed so unnecessary, and it felt like they just wanted to make her feared in the town. I did start to warm to her, but it sure was a rough start. Also, the game does want to have its cake and eat it too when it comes to the creepy relationship between Adel and Karja. They're constantly calling each other brother and sister, but let me make it clear, they are not. It's an honorific title in battle. They are shield brother and sister. However, way later in the game, there's a few moments of talk between the crew, and they're talking about how these two are definitely f***ing, and another character just assumes they're going to get married, while these two just keep calling each other brother and sister. And to be fair, there is no love story in this game, but it is a little bit weird. My only guess the only reason they didn't put a love story in this is because the character of Adel is in other Ys games. So maybe he had a love story in some of the other games. I don't know. If it was in book 1 or 2, I don't remember it at all. The mana cuffs that linked the characters was an interesting idea, but it was a little inconsistent at times. Sometimes they could only move a few meters from each other, but other times he would leave the room without issues. And this was in a 10-minute window! This is a real-time role-playing game. It's a little hard to get down at first. There was normal attacks, then the characters have specific attacks, which would use all the 4 buttons, A, B, X, and Y, while you're holding down the R button. Then there was the group attack when you would hold down the ZR button, then once again you would use the A, B, X, or Y buttons. These attacks were all adjustable to your playstyle, but it was a little confusing switching to them in battle. They give you plenty of new moves to choose from, so picking the right ones will depend on your playstyle. There were all kinds of options to change up the way your character's powered up. The main way is by putting in stones into slots, which change up the perks that will happen. It would change up your strength, luck, defense, that sort of thing. I found this unnecessarily complicated. I know you can spend a lot of time tweaking this, but I really didn't want to. I thought it was just too much. Why not scale this back and make the mana stones much more precious and important? The Trail series uses the same kind of orbs of power, but those just have a few slots to use, not the 70 or 80 of them on each character to change up. It was just too much to deal with. This is an open world game, and you do that by sailing the seas, and I really enjoyed sailing around and exploring the areas that they have to offer. There were ship battles which were fairly simple but entertaining. You could upgrade your ship to make things even easier, or even speed it up. They had a really good fast travel system with decent loading times. There are quite a few optional places you could go. Most of them add to your ship's crew or services, so it might be worth looking around your map and not just go to the next story objective. Some of the side missions were much longer and deeper than I expected, and I really liked that. It made me really want to find them all. When you get to the islands, they all have a similar feel to them. All of the islands look the same with small differences, like mud pits or actual greenery. Platforming in these sections was a bit clunky, especially when they have you Spider-Manning around off monoropes on the trees. However, since there really wasn't any penalty to missing a jump, it wasn't a huge deal, but these jumps got a lot trickier and a little bit more annoying. Graphically, I think the game looks not great. There are some interesting locales later in the game, but there's nothing here that I don't think couldn't be put on the Wii. It could just be because of the Switch's limited power. But looking at the trailers for the PC version, I don't see that many differences, except some clarity. Occasionally you'll be pulled into a dream island. They were usually fairly brief, but interesting. However, the game does run into the problem of running out out of buttons. They eventually give you a monosense by having you click the right analog stick. Then they'd have you hold it down for a different kind of ability. Same idea, but just a little more powerful. I do wish this was assigned to like the X or Y button. I liked the voice acting in this, but it was a bit inconsistent when it would happen. Adol most of the time would be mute, but Karja wouldn't be, and you could choose which character you want to play as. But I think the main character is supposed to be Adol, and most of the time you won't hear his voice. However, there are rare moments where he has some voiced lines, so I don't understand why they didn't just voice him fully. Karja is voiced consistently, so why isn't he? Also, they often let you pick from two options in the conversation scenes so you can react to what someone says. However, I don't think it even matters. It will just have slightly different dialogue, and it feels like it's just here to make you part of the scene, but it fails to put your voice into it. Ys 10 Nordics was a pretty good game. It had an interesting story, and the open world was pretty fun to explore. I do wish the areas that we explored had more variety. If you've seen one island, you've pretty much seen them all. Now I think this game is worth a buy, with a little bit of a caveat. They just announced a new version of this game coming to Japan next year with new areas and visuals. Now, while this was an enjoyable game with great characters, it is a little bit annoying that in 2 years you might get a better version. If you don't want to wait, I think this game is definitely worth a buy. Now, before I go, I actually thought it was kind of funny. I played 2 games in a row which uses the ocean to travel, and you can find islands and all that other stuff. I'm like, wow. I'm talking about Mario and Luigi Brothership, and then this game. So I started thinking, I wonder which one was better. It's been a very long time since I've done a battle video, but I'm happy to announce my very next video will be Mario and Luigi Brothership versus Ys 10 Nordics. Thanks for watching.